Okay, this is the video on properties of exponents. So we've learned these properties in class already. This is a quick review of all the different properties with some practice involved. So the first property is the product of powers. So the product of powers is saying that if I multiply a to the m times a to the n, it's equal to a to the m plus n. So I add their powers together. So an example is x to the third, x to the second. What I'm really doing is x to the 3 plus 2, which equals x to the 5. Another way we thought about was writing it out. I know that I have 3 x's and 2 x's. All together, I have 5 x's. This is the shortcut for that. We just add the powers together. So what I want you to do now is pause the video and try these 3. Okay, so problem number 1, you should have gotten r to the 10th, r to the 3rd, r to the 2nd. So 10 plus 3 plus 2. So this is really r to the 10 plus 3 plus 2, which equals r to the 15th. For problem 2, a to the 2nd, b to the 3rd, a to the 4th, b to the 2nd. So I would add the a's together and I would add the b's together. So I would get a to the 2 plus 4 and b to the 3 plus 2. So my final answer is a to the 6th, b to the 5th. For 3, it's c to the 2nd, d to the 3rd, d to the 9th, and just a c, which is just like a c to the 1st. So c plus 2 plus 1 is 3. So I get c to the 3rd power. 3 plus 9 is 12. So I get d to the 12th power. And that's my answer. The second property is the quotient of powers. So a to the m over a to the n equals a to the m minus n. So basically what we're saying is that I can say x to the 6th over x to the 2nd is really x to the 6 minus 2, which is where we got the 4 from. We could have also written it out as 6 x's and 2 x's. So they cancel out and I'm left with 4. So both ways are fine. This is the shortcut for the method over here. So again, pause the video and try these ones, and then we'll go over them when you unpause the video. Okay, problem number 1. N to the 10th, n to the 7th. So it's n to the 10 minus 7, which is n to the 3rd power. Number 2, s to the 8th, s to the 1st. It's really s to the 7th because 8 minus 1 is 7. For 3, m to the 5th, m to the 5th. So those actually cancel each other out because 5 minus 5 is 0. So it's 1. N to the 12th, n to the 2nd. So your final answer should have been m, n to the 10th power. The next property is the power of a power. So that's where you're multiplying it by itself that many number of times. So like a to the m to the nth power, you multiply the powers together. So when we thought about this in class, we wrote it out as x to the 3rd power times x to the 3rd power, and then 3 plus 3 is 6. So we can also think of this as x to the 3 times 2, which is x to the 6th power. So we can use that shortcut. So again, pause the video and try these couple. Okay. So for this first one, I have 4 times 3, because it's w to the 4 times 3 power, which is w to the 12th. M to the 2nd, n to the 5th, both to the 4th power. So when I do it, I multiply them both times 4. So I'm going to get 2 times 4 is 8. So now I have m to the 8th power. And 5 times 4 is 20. So I have n to the 20th power, because I don't want to write that out. And then 3, I have x to the 4th power y, both to the 2nd power. So I'm going to add x to the 8th power, y to the 2nd, because I multiply. Okay. Then we have the negative exponent rule. So if I have anything raised to a negative exponent, it drops down into the denominator. So like a to the negative n becomes 1 a to the nth power. So x to the negative 2 became 1 x to the second power. Okay, so try these few. Okay, so it's to the negative third power, so it's like it's a fraction, so it just becomes part of the denominator. Y to the third power, we put a 1 on the top. Since the negative power is in the denominator already, it's going to go to the top. So this one is w to the fifth power. And this one you have to be careful because the m and the n to the negative fourth power are separated from each other. So this is really going to be m on the top, and the n to the fourth is going to go into the denominator. Okay, so now let's practice. So we're going to do this in a couple problems. So you'll pause the video, watch the answers after you've tried them. So try problem number 1 and problem number 2. Okay, so unpause your video. So problem number 1 is x squared times 3x. So 3 would be multiplied by like the 1 that's outside here. So 3 times 1 is going to be 3. And x to the second power times x is x to the third power. So the answer should have been 3x to the third power. Problem number 2, we have to do in a couple steps. So I know that negative 10 times 3 is going to be negative 30. So first I'm going to say I have negative 30 c squared d to the negative third power. Then this d to the negative third power, it drops into the denominator. So my final answer is negative 30 c squared over d to the third power. Anytime I have a negative, it goes into the denominator. If it's part of the denominator, it goes up. So now pause the video and try these two. Okay. Problem number 3. Acts like there's ones after that w and the x. So I'm going to subtract because it's division. 2 minus 1 is going to be 1. So I get w. 3 minus 1 is 2, x to the second power. 9 minus 2 is 7, z to the seventh power. Problem 4, since I'm going to multiply, I'm going to do the product rule first where I add the exponents. So I do the 3 times the 3, which gives me 9. Y to the negative second times y to the second power. Negative 2 plus 2 is 0. So now I have y to the 0 power and then x squared. Well, y to the 0 power equals 1. So my final answer is just 9x squared. Problem number 5. First, I have to raise everything to the third power, so I'm multiplying. So I'm going to have a negative 2 outside here. X squared to the third power is going to be x to the sixth power. Y to the third power is going to be y to the third power. So this is my final answer. Okay, for problem number 6, the 5 and the 15ths, I'm going to actually just simplify that. It's going to become 1/3. And then I do my subtraction. M to the second, m to the eighth. 2 minus 8 is going to give me a negative 6. So I get m to the negative 6. 3 minus 2 for the n's is going to give me an n. Since this is a negative exponent, it's going to go into the denominator. The n will stay and the 1 will stay. 1 times n is n over 3m to the positive 6th power. Pause the video, try number 7 and number 8. Okay, problem number 7. So we have to do things kind of in a couple different steps. So I'm going to start by doing this part over here. And I can also do part of this part over here. I can do the a to the 0. A to the 0 is just 1. So I'm going to have 3b to the 4th power times 2 a to the negative 2nd power and b to the negative 6th power because I'm raising each one to the power. So then I could multiply even further. I can do 3 times 2, which is going to give me 6, a to the negative 2nd power. 4 plus negative 6 is negative 2, so b to the negative 2nd power. So now both of these have to become part of my denominator. So I get 6 over a squared b squared. That's my final answer. Problem number 8. So first I'm going to, this is like there's a -1 outside, so it just stays there. So, and then I just add my exponents. So c to the second, c to the first is c to the third. D to the third, d to the ninth is d to the 12th. And this is negative. So the last two problems, again, pause your Chromebook and try them on your own first, and then watch the video. So for problem number 9, this whole entire thing is raised to the 0 power, which means the whole thing becomes 1. So then I get 4r squared s cubed, and that's it. I can't combine anything else. Problem number 10, the first thing I have to do is the one in parentheses, so I'm raising each thing to the power of 2. So 5 to the second power is going to be 25. P0 times 2 is going to be 0, so it's still p to the 0 power, and s to the 10th power. So times 5prs to the 4th power. So now I have 5 times 25, which is 125. P to the first, p to the 0 is just going to be p still. There's no r, so it's going to stay r. And then s to the 4th, s to the 10th will be s to the 14th.